I don't know about you, but once I put the Valentine's Day decorations up, I assume that spring is just around the corner. And that's just not the case. So this year, I'm trying so hard to lean into the coziness of winter, even if I'm getting a little stir crazy for spring. And I have the perfect podcast to help you do the same. It's called All Things Cozy. I'm Andy Smiley, the Friendly Podcast Guide. I'm a mom who has used podcasts to fight the boredom and loneliness of motherhood, and now I want to help you find a podcast that can do the same thing for you. It can be overwhelming to try and find a podcast you'll enjoy in the thousands of shows that are out there. That's where I come in. My episodes are short, and they answer all of the questions you'll have about the podcast, so you'll know if it's a good fit for you or not. I'm here to help you find a podcast you'll love without wasting your time. Now, let's talk podcasts. Hosts Matt and Jillian describe their show like this. It's a bi-weekly podcast about all things cozy. Light a scented candle, curl up with a mug of coffee, and join us every other Sunday for a new episode. The length of each episode is between 45 minutes to an hour. The series is ongoing with new episodes available every other Sunday. Before we learn more about the vibe of the show, we're going to take a quick break to talk about my guide to kid podcasts. One of my favorite parenting tools is kid podcasts. I use them when I'm running errands with the kids to keep them from complaining the whole time, or when we're going on a road trip and I want the littles to stay entertained so I don't have to hear the dreaded, "Are we there yet?" question a million times. I know that kid podcasts would help you in your life too, which is why I made a guide to kid podcasts. There are 8 different categories ranging from science to mindfulness to audio drama, with at least 3 different podcasts in each category. There are 27 different podcasts in total. I've listened to each of the podcasts on this guide so I can attest to them being kid-friendly. And I put my email at the bottom of the guide so that if you try a couple with your kids and none of them are a good fit, you can email me and I will personally help you find a kid podcast that works for your kids and you. You can grab this guide at the link in the show notes. Now we get to hear from Matt and Jillian as they talk about the origins of All Things Cozy and some of their favorite moments from the show. Jillian, will you introduce yourself? And then Matt, will you introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Jillian. I'm Matt's longtime friend. This is the first thing I say about myself. I'm only Matt's friend. But I am an editor at an entertainment website, and I live in Los Angeles with my 2 cats, Reese's and Snickers. And I have a partner, and I'm originally from Long Island, if you can't hear it already. So that's pretty much all about me. I'll kick it to Matt.
Well, hi, I'm Matt, and I am also Jillian's longtime friend. And we actually met teaching together in Baltimore. That's our origin story, and we hit it off, and we've been friends ever since. We now both live in Los Angeles, where we do the podcast. And I'm an educator, and I'm an avid reader of cozy mystery novels.
Ooh.
The great thing about cozy mysteries is that they are light on murder. It's like it's there, but it's barely there. It's high on hijinks and just general coziness, which is why I love them so much and why they're a huge part of our show as well.
Totally. Okay. Why did you start your podcast? Did you start it when you were in LA together, or did you start it long distance and then come together? How did that all happen?
Yeah, we started the podcast in Los Angeles. I was just finishing up a podcast I did with my friend called After Smash, which was about the NBC musical drama, not comedy, Smash. It's if you know it, you love it, and if you don't, you're fine. It is kind of insane if you do want to check it out.
I loved it.
Awesome. It's always great to find another Smash fan. And so that was my podcast bug. I was like, I want to do more of this. And as you know, I love reading cozy mystery novels. And so I was like, what if I did a podcast where I could read cozy mysteries and talk about them? But my other podcast that was about something so specific ended. And I was like, I want it to be longer than something that just ends when the show I'm reviewing ends. So I reached out to Jillian and I was like, hey, would you be down to just doing a show with me that's about generally cozy stuff? And she was a part of that process too, of defining and broadening the scope of what the show was about. So that was literally the reason we started the podcast, was a hunch on, hey, what if we just started a show about cozy things?
I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm pretty much a yes person. I like to say yes, and the main thing that was motivating for me was that I got to spend more time with Matt, and we always have the coziest times. Our friendship is very cozy. So if someone else came up to me and said, "Hey, want to start a cozy podcast?" I might have to think about it because I think you need that cozy vibe, that bond, and that's what makes our show what it is. Truly, a lot of the listeners comment and say one of the favorite things is our friendship. So there wouldn't be the coziness of our show without our cozy friendship.
Absolutely.
I've listened to a couple of episodes and you're definitely on my list, mostly because of that. Like we talked about before I hit record, I have 3 littles. And so sometimes I just need some adult conversation. So it's really nice to kind of listen in on yours and feel like I'm a part of it, even though you don't really, well, you didn't know who I was until now. So it's been fun to kind of like peek in on your friendship and take part of it, even though I wasn't there when you recorded.
Yeah, we're so glad you found us.
I am too.
We're glad you found your podcast.
Yes. Okay, so we've kind of talked about how it started and why, but what do you want people to get out of All Things Cozy?
I would say I would want them to get a small piece of relaxation, whether that's a new tip for a scented candle. We review a scented candle every episode, which if you just tune in to listen to us try to describe a scent via podcast form, or just laughing at us being clowns. Another reason we made the show was because so much of what was out in the media landscape was snarky or really was designed to talk about things and tear it down. And we wanted to make a show that was positive, and we actually liked the stuff we talked about. And so people came away feeling better about the world and not like everyone was just picking everything apart negatively. And so everything we talk about in the show, we really sincerely enjoy or are curious about. And we hope that our listeners discover those things alongside of us.
That's interesting. That's an interesting take on adding some of what you think was lacking to the world via a podcast.
Yeah, no, I mean, just to add to that, around that time, I felt like I was listening to a lot of shows or experiencing a lot of shows that were kind of entertainment podcasts or, TV shows that were really just people like talking heads tearing down like whatever that was, like making fun of it. And I was starting to get, actually, this came out of talking about Smash, that show, which started kind of in a similar vein. But by the end, we had talked to so many of the filmmakers and the actors and the fans who genuinely love it, even despite all of its flaws. And I realized that snark was not the way, that you just have to earnestly love things and own it and not feel embarrassed about it.
That's awesome. I want that on a bumper sticker. Snark is not the way.
I love it. Oh, that's a new mug idea, Matt. So for me, what I love about our podcast is the community that our listeners can get out of it. We have a Facebook group, and it is just it's just spilling over with cozy tips, sharing things about their life and their family or their decorations, or whether it's going through a hard time, a great time. They have actually a card. Was it the holiday card thing going on, Matt? Where there's
card exchange.
Card exchange.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's really wonderful and sweet. Sometimes when I wake up, I'm just having a bad day or a bad moment. I'm just so anchored by the folks that we've met and the friends that they make. I can sincerely say that I can list off a bunch of people that I consider now friends, even they're virtual friends. I never met them. We've met one of them in person. Hope to meet some more in person. Sorry, 2 people. I gotta make sure I get it right.
Get it right, Jillian.
I met 2 people, and it was a lovely experience. And so that's really what I hope people get out of it. Of course, if community is not their thing, we have a lot of introverts. That's fine too. But it seems like the majority of our folks want to connect with others and share and be earnest about the things that they love, which is true for us too.
That is one of my favorite parts about podcasts, is the community that's behind pretty much every podcast. And as a stay-at-home mom, I really crave community. And that is one of the things that like drew me to podcasts was that community aspect that a lot of people don't know. If you're not in the podcast world, you don't understand that there's a community behind every podcast. If it's like really thought out like yours and has a Facebook group, or if it's just a lot of people that like the same podcast and when they meet each other, they're excited. But I love that you have a cozy community. That is absolutely wonderful. Love that.
We're really lucky. Our listeners are amazing.
We have a lot of parents in our fans too.
Well, I would assume that a lot of parents like coziness. We need something that's relaxing, right?
Yeah.
So that makes sense. I feel like it's kind of in the title, but I'd love to explore a little bit more. Like, how would you describe the vibe of your show?
Ooh.
I would say cozy.
Yes.
Silly.
I think a little silly, certainly. We definitely embarrass ourselves a lot on the show, whether it's our ridiculous baking. We keep coming back to baking, and neither of us are great at it, but we both enjoy doing it and really enjoy talking about it even more than doing it, I would say, because I love hearing about Jillian's baking. It's always the things that she does to food.
You always say it like that.
Indescribable. But also I would say earnest as well. I think we're genuine about what we talk about.
Yeah, genuine's a good word. Honest. Our anecdotes, even if they don't paint us in the best light, they're embarrassing. We share them. Sometimes we have noise in the background. Maybe my cat's jumping on my head. Who knows? I think also, yeah, just a lot of love is the vibe of our show too.
Those words are such a wonderful combination. So I'm going to ask you about your favorite episode, or maybe like type of episode. But first, before I have you tell me that, will you tell me where can people find you?
Yeah, people can find our show wherever they listen to podcasts. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, all those things, Stitcher. And you can find us on social media at All Things Cozy Podcast on Instagram and on Facebook, where you can also find our Facebook group by the same name, All Things Cozy Podcast. We also have Patreon as well for those who want to support us.
Awesome. Well, I will make sure to link all of that in the show notes so people can jump straight to where they want to go.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, now you're on the hot seat. You've got to tell me, what is your favorite episode or type of episode, because it's hard to choose one.
I'll let Jillian go first.
Oh, okay. I think I won't say my favorite episode, but I'll say the type. And it's when we're making something, not necessarily food, but when we go on a craft excursion. So we had like a DIY Valentines. That's one of the episodes that we did. Anytime where we're wading into creating. So we had a science experiment episode, and I think Matt's husband joked that's when we're jumping the shark, and perhaps so, but it was fun. It was ridiculous. So I like hearing what Matt came up with when we do those kinds of episodes. And of course, there's always, laughable moments and where it went wrong, but also it's just very childlike and fun, and that's cozy too. Getting to work with your hands and try and experiment and be creative in ways that I don't typically get to do in my day to day.
Yeah, thank you. That's awesome. And I will add that to the show notes, the DIY Valentines. I'm going to have to go back and listen to that one. That one sounds fun.
Yeah, lots of cute crafts for sure.
For me, my favorite episode was when we got to talk to my favorite cozy mystery author of all time. Sorry to beat a dead horse. I'm going back to the cozy mysteries, but Leslie Meyer is a cozy mystery author, and she was the person who got me into the genre when I found her book at a Barnes and Noble, like on a she does holiday mysteries, and it was Halloween time, and there was a jack-o'-lantern on this mystery. And I was like, I had to read it. It was just calling to me. And it pulled me into this whole genre, and to get to sit down and talk to her about her craft and her garden was incredible. It was a dream come true for sure.
That sounds absolutely wonderful. I will add that one to the list too. That just sounds like a fun journey to go on with her. And you get to meet someone who brought you into your favorite genre of books. I mean, really, that's amazing. So because most of my listeners are moms or parents, I always ask, is your podcast okay for little ears?
100%. I would say so.
We don't say any bad words.
There's no cursing on our show. I'm very
Absolutely
diligent
not.
about that. If a guest makes that mistake, I cut it out.
No naughty talk, no potty talk.
No, generally not. I feel like there might be some like silly
Toilet
innuendo sometimes, but generally speaking, I'm aware that my niece listens to my show. So
Okay,
she's
there
in
you
middle
go.
school. So I'm very aware that kids listen.
To wrap up, is there anything else that you want to mention that we haven't talked about yet?
I'm sad the interview's over.
Oh,
Yeah,
it was
it's
a
really
fun
great
time.
talking to you. It feels so
it's
natural.
been a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I'm so glad.
It's really a pleasure to be here with you. Really appreciate
Mhm.
the chance to talk about our show, and we really hope that other people check it out and join our cozy community that's growing.
Cozy Commandos, as Matt likes to say.
I don't know why, but
Yes.
that just comes out. And there's nothing
Commandos.
militaristic about our organization at all, but
Oh.
it feels natural to me. It rolls off the tongue.
You know what? What works, right? That is wonderful. Oh my goodness. I don't want the interview to end either. This has been so much fun. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. I cannot wait for my listeners to be introduced to you fabulous humans and to get their dose of cozy that they need in their life.
Well, Andy, thank you so much for having us. We hope that you stay cozy.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you know someone who could use all things cozy in their life, will you share this episode with them? And if you want to try out Kid Podcasts with your family but don't know where to start, grab my Kid Podcast Guide to find the perfect podcast for your littles. Talk to you soon.
We do have a listener whose children fought over our stickers and merch, but I thought was a sweetest anecdote. So we have cute, friendly merch that kids would like. But
So we did send them some more.
yes, we did.
Aw.
To stop the
That's
family
awesome.
drama.